So, perhaps that might be someplace to
Yes.
look into also.
We will, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
And also, Carol, that's why they started it at grade 10, because the ninth graders, since they're gonna be in the building, they can have something to look forward to, which is why I didn't start as early as ninth grade, because they're just first coming into the building. So upon getting in the building and hearing about this, that's why I started at grade 10 as well, to my understanding. Guys didn't start at 9.
So your constitutional law, do you have any colleges or universities that are attaching themselves to
Not at
that
the
course?
moment.
Because you
We
do
will
have,
pursue it.
you have 2 already for intro to teaching. Thank you.
Thank you.
I read my book.
Our next items involve field trips. The first is for our ROTC. They'll be going to Piscataway in New Jersey. They are also going to Springfield, Massachusetts. And then our debate team will be going to Basking Ridge in New Jersey. And they will also be going to Pennsbury in Pennsylvania. Our last field trip involves our 4 MBK fellows and 3 mentors and a board member. They'll be attending my Brother's Keeper Symposium. That is in Albany on the 17th and 18th of this coming February.
Any questions? Comments?
All good.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is an agreement with Cool Nerd Connect. This program has come to us courtesy of Dr. Freeman Mack. She knew about the program and brought it to us. It is a healthcare industry feeder program that we are going to be offering at NFA North, specifically working with our L students in their double ELA period. This will not only support continued language acquisition, but the program will be bringing in college students who are bilingual, who are working in healthcare degree programs as mentors and as role models for our students. And with your permission, Ms. Green, I'd like to ask Dr. Freeman Mack to speak about this a little bit, since
Yes.
she's with us.
Good evening, everyone. So Cool Nurse Connect is a program that works also with Crystal Run. It is a healthcare awareness program. Basically, it's looking to target and create awareness for in-demand career fields, such as radiology assistant, dental hygienist, things of that nature. They have partnered and confirmed partnerships with Pfizer and also with General Electric Healthcare as well. We do feel that it would be great at NFA North. We are piloting this program this year for this one class, which will encompass about 25 to 30 students. And we're also feeling that it would also assist with the nursing program that is also at NFA North. It would work very well also with Ms. Romano and magnificent things she does there with those students as well.
Yes, questions?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you please speak to, I'm a little confused. Something like this seems like an incredible program, incredible opportunities. Why would it be limited to an E&L students instead of all students, especially in related sciences and pathways to meet graduation in regards to those fields? Why wouldn't that be open to all students?
It may be in the future. This is really a pilot program, and we were looking for a population who would benefit from having a career pathway which they were not able to access at the current time. Natasha?
Also with Cool Nerds and with Crystal Run and even with Pfizer, there is a need for a more diverse population of those individuals to enter into these different fields. When we look now at radiologists, at phlebotomists, at dental hygienists, there is a lack of diversity. So we are targeting students to go into those areas as well.
That's what I was going to add, is
Okay.
that there's a need for bilingual people in that field.
Absolutely. But I've been in Crystal Run. I'm out there. And as I look at the pictures up there, I see African Americans up there. And this is an area that would help our African American population in this district. Our kids are hurting. And I understand the E&L population, absolutely.
But they're E&L that look like us, so you may
No.
think it's African American, but I'm just saying, they come
Okay,
in
forget the
huge.
pictures. Forget the
Okay,
pictures.
okay.
Let's talk about hard concrete facts.
Mm-hmm,
African Americans
mm-hmm.
are in dire need of opportunities like this. And I understand the E&L population, but I think we're missing something here when we offer something like this and we don't target or give opportunities to kids of African American descent. If you look at the numbers in our district, those kids are hurting.
I don't,
But it was I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
It's a pilot program. This is not to say that it won't expand. They're just starting it off with E&L. This is not to say that it won't expand. It's a pilot. A pilot only starts with one population, and then once you see how it takes off, then you can expand it. But it's just a pilot right
I
now.
understand what you're saying, Madam Chair.
Okay.
But when we say opportunities
Mm-hmm.
and we say those areas of diversity are not met, I would guarantee you to check numbers, and the low numbers will be African American, not E&L in that field. And I know this because I've had conversations. So, well, I know that for a fact.
Okay, because I know a lot of places, when you go somewhere, sometimes they're asking, do you speak Spanish, when they're trying to relate to other people
But
who
you can
speak
be
Spanish.
African
So
American and be bilingual.
yes, you can be, but the thing is that that's a second language for you. They're really trying to focus on the bilinguals who speak Spanish and are learning English. So that's going to be more helpful for them, I would think. They're starting. The bilinguals program. Their first language is Spanish, right?
Okay.
So they're learning to speak English, which would still be more of a help for them because they're going into a field where they can still speak with people who speak Spanish, but they're still learning English as well. It's like a twofer, and from the way I see it.
I'm going to need a little more
Mr.
information on this, but I hear what you're saying, but
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
I think that, this is a pilot, so we don't know if it's really gonna work or not. So my question is gonna be, how are we gonna evaluate it? And how soon can we develop it so that it includes other groups other than E&L? Just like the introduction to teaching, pilot it, see if it works, get all the kinks out of it. But don't give it like 2 years, 3 years, give it a year.
Right.
And then roll it out for the entire population and target those underserved populations. Does that help, Mr.
it
Howard?
does help. And being born and raised here in the city of Newburgh, in Newburgh Large City School District all my life, the biggest underserved population is the African American population. And I understand when you say it's a pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. But so there's two programs that we just talked about that are targeting E&L. Something we have to have an awareness where our numbers are low in this district. And I'm saying historically, and I've always said this, it's like not the squeaky wheel gets the oil, but if we fix that population, our overall numbers rise.
Absolutely.
If you look at the numbers, African Americans are struggling as a population. And to offer opportunities for these kids, I see so many of our kids that graduate or leave NFA on the corners, and there's nothing for them. They don't go on
So
to the next
Phil, then the
level.
question is, why was this population targeted for this particular program? That's the question.
Okay, thank you, Madam President.
Since
So-
this is a pilot program, we had some limited resources that we could expend on the program. Our L students don't often have the same opportunities as our more fluent English speakers to participate in our CTE programs and some of the other career strands. This program is designed to work with our L students who are in a double period block for English language arts with English speaking students. It's a mixed group. so that those students will also benefit from it in this block. And give them exposure to a career path that as their language fluency develops, they might have interest into working in. It also gives exposure to the other students who are non-Ls who are in the double block. I would love to see this program expanded as a preliminary entry-level program. This activity will only be conducted 1 day a week. Go ahead, Natasha.
During the school day. So that was the other area that was a concern, that if we're gonna target a group of students, and our demographics were 59.3% Hispanic. So we wanted to target a group of students where we can examine a pilot, but there's not like one set class to do it in. So we're targeting some of our demographics and then looking at what we can do and how we can best support those students as well, because our Hispanic students are also dropping out of school. So we
Our African-American
wanna
students
cast
are
that
too.
wide, yes, they are, so we wanna cast a wide net to support.
So let's talk about the data. What kind of data are you gonna look at to evaluate the success of this program? Because that to me is gonna be key in how you can replicate it.
Cool Nerds does provide some survey data when they come in and meet with the students and meet with the classes as well. It is a hybrid opportunity. So there's someone in the classroom as well as a teacher of record. When we look at data, since we're targeting, I believe, a 10th grade class, we can also look at to see what the continuum will be. Will they go ahead and enroll in that pathway with the health and careers area? So we're hoping to increase signing up and attendance in those areas as well, in those healthcare fields.
So we can anticipate hearing about this program in June of '24 to see whether it's, or even before that,
I think
to see whether it's
before that,
successful to be replicated.
to see if it created some interest and sparked some
Thank you.
deeper level of inquiry for them in those fields.
Okay, also, Madam President, I was my understanding that they will also look at it after the first semester, just to see if the students are still interested in it and to see where to go next. That was my understanding,
That's great.
that they would, I mean, it's not an overall assessment, but at least just to like do a check to see if the students are still, yes.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I understand your concerns, Mr. Howard, and I agree we need to provide more activities, more programs, more supports, and more programs of interest to all of our students.
Thank you.
And perhaps what we could do is we can expand a bit and just maybe have another pilot of, another group of students where we could pilot to see if that's something that we could utilize elsewhere. So maybe we can expand a bit if we have enough funding.
If we can secure the funding
Mm-hmm.
and the Cool Nerds organization is available to us, we might be able to provide this as a CTE preliminary strand at Ann Street with our population, which is predominantly African American.
Mm-hmm.
Because those students currently don't have very many elective opportunities. And those are,
That's a great idea.
That is a great
the
idea.
biological sciences are areas of great interest to all students at that age. So that has the potential if we can do that.
Please understand, I advocate for all students, but it's just, when I see opportunities like this that I know children can benefit from, and I know some of the children of African American descent in this community, in this district, they just don't see a tomorrow.
Mhm.
They don't see those opportunities. And for opportunities like this to be available in our district, and we don't specifically try to target some of these kids, because real talk, if we don't get them then, we lose them.
A rising tide rises all ships.
Absolutely,
And we need to keep that as part of our focus.
absolutely.
With the consent of the superintendent and Ms. Green as chair, if we contact Cool Nerds and they are available to work with us and we can move some of our C&I funding around, would it be acceptable for us to bring forward next Tuesday a resolution and amend this resolution to include a program at Ann Street for those students?
I would like that a lot.
Great idea.
Do that.
Okay. And Natasha and I will work with Cool Nerds tomorrow and see if we can do that, and if we can, we'll get the resolution amended. Is that
Thank you,
okay
Donna.
with everyone?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful, I appreciate the support. Our next item is to enter an agreement with Hunter College. This provides our school nutrition program with interns. The interns come and work with Caitlin in our cafeteria program at no cost to us. So that is a huge bonus, and it also encourages some of the graduates of the Hunter College program in public health to consider working with school districts in dietary areas, which is not always an enticing area for nutritionists and public health professionals. So we're very lucky that we can benefit from that.
Any questions or comments?
Okay, our next item includes an overview, which I believe the superintendent will be discussing with you next Tuesday also in her presentation about a restructuring of our languages other than English and how we will be presenting our instruction. As I'm sure you are all aware, we have limited staff availability for teachers of foreign languages, and I say foreign languages advisedly with no offense to other languages other than English. That's just old school when you say foreign languages, so my apologies in advance. So we looked at perhaps the most effective way that we can utilize our staff. And what the movement that the district plans to be taking starting this September is to move our language other than English instruction solely to grades 8 through 12 and offer Spanish as well as American Sign Language, which you approved 1 or 2 meetings ago, to Maine, Northwest, South, and Heritage. Temple and Meadow Hill will offer Spanish and Italian in grades 8 because they have a robust population still enrolled in the Italian courses for grades 8. We also have looked at adding over the summer in order to support our ENL population more appropriately with our limited staff. As you know, we're still seeking, I believe it's 6 vacant positions to fill for ENL instruction, and we still are enrolling non-English speakers or limited English speakers every day. We're looking at adding an additional screener for the summer for registration to work with our part-time screener in registration so that we can most appropriately place our students and arrange for our staff to be in the appropriate locations too to provide the best services. So for example, as students come in elementary age to be screened, if we have 20 third graders come in, and we know where our staff has been tentatively assigned, we can best group our third graders in sections of grade 3 in schools, rather than currently what happens is they get spread out. 2 go here in a third grade, 2 go to third grade in this section, 2 go to third grade here, and it's very difficult to provide push-in and pull-out services then in scheduling. So as we not only increase our capacity to do appropriate screening of our students when they're coming in a more rapid fashion, we can work with our building principals in the elementary tier to assign our students 2 sections of courses where they can then receive the most appropriate and rapid instruction. Does that make sense so far? Okay. I lost you. Okay.
No, you didn't lose me, I've got
Okay.
questions.
All right.
You might as well get Phil first, cause I'm gonna be a little lengthy.
So my question, Don,
Uh-huh.
in understanding the shortages that we have with teachers and the bilingual programs and ENL programs that we have, how are we making sure that these children are getting the instruction that they need if we don't have the proper amount of teachers or the bilingual educators in the buildings, in the classrooms? How are we ensuring that these children are getting what they're should be getting and legally what they should be getting, cause
I'm going to be very blunt, we're not. We are not providing all of the services that we are required to provide by SED guidelines and by moral guidelines. And that's part of what this plan addresses. We need to regroup our staff, we need to regroup our students, and we need to work to provide the appropriate instruction and support. 1 or 2 meetings ago, you created 2 bilingual teaching assistant positions so that we could at least begin to provide some additional support for our students. The other piece is, we currently run, and I was going to get this, we run dual language programs, which are wonderful. It's great. If I were a parent in the district and I could send my child to kindergarten and have them in a dual language program, I would be all over it. However, we need to refine how we provide those services and redistribute our staff to provide the mandated services that we're not providing. Because again, that rising sea rises all of us.
piggyback. Madam President, one more thing. So in light of that, when we have situations like this, have we looked outside the box?
Yeah.
Because E&L and bilingual is burgeoning throughout the country. Have we looked at other districts to see what they're doing
We're
to provide these services?
we're currently looking at several options. One of which is we're looking at an MOA that will let us provide virtual instruction using our own in-house staff who are housed in a particular building and might have the ability to teach a class in another building virtually as a start. We're looking at working with several college partners to help our teachers become certified, get the ENL extension. They need 15 credits for that. We're working on an MOA that will permit that. In return, we expect our teachers to provide ENL services with their new certification if we avail the opportunity to do this and earn it to them. We're also looking at a newcomers program. In fact, Dr. Beato will be visiting Ramapo within the next week or two to look at their newcomer program for students who have very limited English capacity. And explore opportunities perhaps to establish a newcomer center so that our students for a short term can do a very intensive immersion in English language instruction and then move into the mainstream work more effortlessly. So we're trying very hard to attract staff. I have made a request that every single posting that we put out stress that bilingual fluency is preferred. That doesn't mean we get the candidates, but we try.
After school.
We also have we've opened, and again, this targets our ENL population and our Ls. We have tutorial programs 3 days a week on our secondary level through grant-funded programming for our Ls. And in February, we will be opening Saturday school, much like we do the Regents Review for our ENLs for homework help and tutorial work.
Thank you very much.
Can I start with one question?
Sure.
Okay. So, you said at the 8 through 12 level, not the middle schools, not the
Right.
K-8 schools. That you mentioned sign and Spanish, but you didn't mention Italian. You're gonna have to have Italian, so for those students who come up from the middles.
Where we will continue the Italian strand for the students who are in Italian. For example, students who are completing Italian 1 this year, we will continue to provide Italian 2 for them, but after that we'll phase it out because our numbers are dwindling. We have Italian sections with 7 students.
So even from the middle schools? Okay, so I think what I'd like to see is what those numbers are and because you're gonna end up running a Spanish 2 for, Italian 2 for like 2 kids.
Right.
So
And
that's
that was one of the
difficult.
reasons we said, moving forward, we would offer, for example, Temple Hill and Meadow Hill will still be offering Italian in grade 8 for the coming year. And then as we
But
see
only
what,
1 year.
right, and then as we see what our interest is, we're gonna work very closely with guidance so that we can phase this. We don't want to abruptly cut kids off from their language studies, we want them to finish a sequence as much as possible, but we have to look at where the interest is and what we can support. I would love to see us offer back in the day, high schools, comprehensive high schools would have French, German, Italian, Spanish.
Latin.
I worked in a district that
Mandarin.
offered Chinese. We had
Right.
Chinese exchange teachers. We don't have that capacity right now. So one of our goals is to meet as much of our students' interests as we can support within reasonable instructional caseloads, and then help our staff move into the other areas. And even if you're not certified, 1 out of cert.
One.
I did that with the French teachers
Right.
when French started to
Right.
lose enrollment
Exactly.
here. Most of them were encouraged to get their second certification in ESL.
And continue to be gainfully
So
employed.
now I have questions about students testing and then grouping them. I think you have to be really careful because we're still under Lau versus Nickel. That says we have to provide bilingual education for 20 students in a same language in a grade level in a particular school.
Yes.
So I think when you make a comment and say that we're gonna group all third graders and send them to one place, we have to be really very careful. Can that school take them in? Do they have appropriate setting for them? And do they have all the supportive services? Do they have a Spanish-speaking person in the health office, in the main office? So it's a very complex situation, but it's also looking at how we're using the people that we have now. Now, I know that you all really like dual language. I do not, believe it or not, and I am a very strong second language person. The reason I don't is because we're kind of wasting a very valuable resource that we have in a certified bilingual teacher who has to half the time teach non-ENL students. So we're losing a lot of students that way. Also, the numbers of students, the ENL students drop out by 3rd and 4th grade because they're progressing in language and becoming proficient. Therefore, they don't need the bilingual program, so that in grades 4 and 5, you're looking at a class with a bilingual teacher who has a few
Correct.
bilingual students and a lot of English dominant students or
We have a plan
native
for that.
English language.
Can I ask you to breathe for 1 second and let me address both of those?
Okay.
Let me-
We've got questions all the way
No,
around.
no, but I'm saying, that's why they said they want to reallocate the staff that they have, so that is addressing that, that's why it's reallocation.
I think I didn't give you as clear an explanation on part as I could have, so I apologize. When I said group, currently what happens is, let's say for the sake of discussion, 10 students come in, elementary age, and are assigned to Vales Gate, just for the sake of discussion. The building principal then has traditionally made the class assignments, which teacher these students worked with. If 6 of those students are in grade 3, our goal is to have at least 3 of them in this grade 3 section and 3 in this grade, not 1 in this one, 1 in this one, 1 in this one, 1 in this one.
Understood.
That's what I was talking about for scheduling, not that Vales Gate would wind up with all of our bilingual students.
Just have one section.
Instead of
building.
having students spread out across 4 sections of grade 3, have them clustered
For
for ease of
those parents
scheduling
who
and for
choose
instruction.
ENL rather than bilingual.
Exactly,
Correct.
right, exactly. So that was the first part. The second part about the dual language, one of the things we have proposed is where our current dual language programs exist. Once those programs are eliminated through attrition as we move forward, we hope to be able to provide after-school instruction as part of the Empire program, part of 21st Century Grant programming for parents and students who wish to attend to pick up ACWA's fluency in oral language and Spanish, as well as a 6-week summer school program of full language and cultural immersion. which would be available to any student in the district of the appropriate age group that the program would be designed for. So that will provide parents who are losing the ability to have their students in a dual language program with an alternative to language acquisition. That makes sense?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, no,
So as I stated before, you know, you can hear and know what we're talking about, but since we're being broadcast out, can somebody, because it was explained to me, I know what it is now, but I know some people don't know what we're talking about. Can somebody explain the difference between a dual language program and a bilingual? And
Chastity?
because people in the public don't really, might not understand what's different.
I can, but since we have Dr. Bianca,
Oh,
I'm
so
gonna
that was
ask
gonna-
her to explain the
I
difference.
mean, I know
I could
what I'm
explain
talking about.
I could
Broadcast.
okay.
I wanna make sure they know what we're talking about.
Good evening, everyone. ENL, or English as a New Language, is offered in all of our schools, and it is offered based on the English proficiency of the students. They are in the classroom, and during the ELA block, the ENL teacher has to co-teach in the classroom, regardless of the proficiency level. Now, if they are entering or emerging, in addition to the co-integrated ENL ELA, they have to receive a standalone, where the ENL teacher provide additional services for language acquisition purposes. That's the ENL program, and again, it's offered in all of our buildings. The bilingual program, according to New York State, there are two types. There's transitional bilingual and there's dual language. Transitional bilingual means students receive instruction in English and their home language, and the percentage of their home language diminishes as they are learning English, to the point where when they do become proficient in English, then they move on to mainstream with still 2 years of additional ENL support. So now they become part of our ENL numbers as former Ls. With dual language, it's, as the name says, it's both languages all the way through. We offer a K-5, so they receive instruction in English and in Spanish, regardless of their proficiency level, and even if they pass on ICESLA, like Ms. Mineo was explaining, they remain in the program, which is why it shows that our L numbers at the upper elementary are lower, because even if we started with a full class of Ls in kindergarten and first grade, as they learn the language and pass on ICESLA and become proficient, now they are part of our monolingual students.
Thank you for that explanation, because you'd be surprised amount of people think dual language, bilingual is interchangeable. And it's the
But
same
it's
thing.
not.
It's not.
Right.
Absolutely. That's why I asked for that explanation, because I know some people that don't know.
She definitely
what
gave a
we're
more
talking
detailed explanation than what I was gonna do. I was like, I know that, but she definitely gave a more detailed explanation.
about. Absolutely. Thank you.
So that's where we are with our languages other than English and our Ls and our ENL. Just as an aside, I think it's very important that we work very hard to provide our mandated services, as well as other enrichment services that we have I don't wanna say it's a luxury to provide, but if we can't provide our base services, then we're not really fulfilling our legal obligation to anyone in our district.
But it's a matter of getting the certified personnel to do it. We have a shortage, and
Yep.
although we're still supposed to provide those services, there's a understanding that we have a shortage, and you're doing the best you can do until you get the qualified personnel to do it.
And we are not alone in that.
I know, that's what I'm saying, that it's
Unfortunately,
across the
difficult.
board, yes.
But Madam Chair, I somewhat disagree with you there. And I'll say why. Because when we don't find a way to make it happen, our kids hurt. And it's really a disservice to the children when we're not finding a way to make sure they get those services that they should be mandated to get through SED. I understand what you're saying.
But you
They're
need
not
to
out there.
you need to qualified people to give them those
Absolutely.
services, so this is what I'm saying, you know,
But should the
If
kids
it's not-
suffer?
no, the kids should not suffer, but if we don't have the people to teach them, then they're
Then we
going to
gotta find a
suffer.
way.
Yeah.
We gotta find a way.
But they're doing everything they can to try to get people
No, I'm not
to
saying
come.
that
Okay.
we're not doing it. I'm
Okay,
saying we gotta think outside the box.
I'm
Madam
trying.
Chairperson,
Not that you're not.
can we,
I'm saying
can we
that.
also have a report on the newcomer program that they're looking at? Because I think that could be very difficult in as much as separating one language group could often be seen as discrimination.
Right.
And I think we have to be really very careful in how we set up that program, and the board should be aware of all those kinds of nuances
Definitely.
that will happen with that program.
Many
you.
newcomer programs are designed for districts that have a larger variety of entry languages than we have. Not that we don't have languages other than Spanish as new entrants. We do, but not with the great number and diversity that other districts have. But it's something that we're going to explore and see if it's feasible and if it's viable, and it may not be for us. But we at least can address it and say that we have addressed it and looked at another source of support. The last item we have tonight is basically.
I'm sorry, any other questions or comments before we go forward?
For
Okay.
Mr. DeRay.
Right. The last item, Andrea and I have for you tonight, before Mr. Etru has his presentation, involves a conversation about honors versus non-honors courses. I asked the directors to list all of their honors courses as well as their non-honors courses, and the schools in which honors courses were provided. This activity came about because I discovered that in 8th grade, some of our schools, of our 8th grade schools, were offering high school courses, which is fine and in an accelerated fashion. But they were not, number one, all offering the same courses in 8th grade, and they were weighting the 8th grade courses. So my question was, if we are weighting an 8th grade course, is it an honors curriculum, which is what should be weighted? And what I discovered is that there is not one 8th grade course which is honors. They are all regular. For example, Algebra 1. It is a regular Algebra 1 course, not the honors Algebra 1 course. An honors course should have greater depth and breadth of instruction to be honors. So what I gave you tonight is a compilation of the material the directors provided for your consideration. I have not had the opportunity yet to discuss this with policy. This may be a policy consideration, I don't know if policy addresses this. It may not. But I would like you to give some consideration and thought to whether or not 8th grade courses should be weighted. They're accelerated. A child who takes, for example, Algebra 1 in 8th grade and passes the course successfully can then take a different math class in high school and open up other opportunities within the array of courses they have to take. They can earn the credit. But it is my recommendation and belief that 8th grade courses that are not honors courses should not be weighted as honors courses. And I also think we need to take a look, if you agree, with what courses are offered so that it is standard and there is equity among all of our 8th grade students. If I can take earth science for the sake of discussion at Heritage, I should be able to take it at Temple Hill as an 8th grader, at Meadow Hill, and at South.
It also is my understanding that honors classes don't start until high school. At least that is my complete understanding. You do not take anything that's considered honors because the high schools offer the regimen and the rigor that you need for an honors course. Once again, in 8th grade, a student can be advanced or gifted Because when my daughter was in the 8th grade, she took, at that time, it was sequential 1, she took the sequential 1 Regents and she started high school with that credit, but it wasn't an honors class, she was just advanced.
Right.
She also took in her science Regents in 8th grade, so when she started high school, she had 2 credits for science and math, but that was not honors, they were just on a different track. It is my understanding that honors start in high school because that's when you start getting your GPA for college.
Right.
So I don't see how they can do weighted in 8th grade because that doesn't go with you to college. They start looking at 9th grade, which is when honors courses start.
That's
So if
why
there's
according
a
to your
policy
committee-
that needs to be done, honors courses, and I'm just saying my opinion because I can't state it for fact, but it doesn't start until high school because that's when you start earning your credits before you start going to college. That's what colleges look at. Colleges don't look at 7th and 8th grade stuff. They start at 9th grade, which is where the honors classes start. Yes, Madam
I think
President.
something that you said was very important. We have to provide equity between
Yes.
all of our schools. So if there's in grade 8, for example, at Meadow Hill, the gifted classes or
Right.
accelerated classes should be the same at South, at Heritage, and also at Temple. We're one district, and I feel very strongly that we should give everybody opportunity. And I think that the second conversation that we need to have is, I'd like to see how diverse the classes are, to make sure that we're offering and getting students prepared and ready to accept those challenges and not be frustrated and put into classes just because we need the numbers. But I think we need to prepare students and have them ready for the challenges that we're gonna provide them.
And dovetailing on that, we had that conversation before, that's a very important conversation to have with the parents at that level. Let them understand what the advantages of honors courses are, what they can do to help a child prepare for post-secondary. But bigger than that, so were you saying that the non-honors courses were weighted, were they included on the high school transcript?
Yes.
Yes, that's a problem.
Which then again brings about the issue of equity.
Yeah.
Because if I am capable of taking 2 or 3 honors courses at one particular, or one accelerated class, because they're not honors material, but accelerated class, and it is weighted, and then I go into class ranking, I've had an advantage that my peers have not
Right.
been able to have. Separate and apart from the fact that perhaps they should not, in my opinion, have been weighted because they're not honest material to start with.
Wow, okay, thank you.
It's a big conversation. It's not
Which is
a
why,
5-second
no,
conversation.
but that's why I figured it was my hope to at least bring it to the table for you to think about, and perhaps our next meeting, if with the chairman's consent and the members' consent, we could discuss it further if you wish, or you could let me know what your feelings are with that.
Well, I already told you when we had our meeting. I
Yes,
already
you
told
did.
what my
Yes,
feelings
you
were.
did. Does anyone have any questions about that at this point?
No, I agree with Madam President. I think that's a conversation that's more deserving of more than 5 minutes, 10 minutes, because that is a very important subject matter, and I think that we need to be where we need to be on that, and understand the ramifications of what that can really look like to us as a district if we're doing this. I'm pretty sure that's not happening, and I would hope not happen. But yeah, that's a conversation that I think for the full board.
Any other questions or comments?
We now have Mr. Etrie.
Yes.
Wait a minute. I'll sit next to that. There you go, sir.
Mr. Etrie is our director of our CPE programs. And he's here to answer your questions and give you an overview.
Good evening, everyone. How are you this evening? I'm very excited to give you just a small look at the CTE department and some of the excitement that's going on this year. You'll probably see from some of the photos, these,
Does everybody know what CTE is before we go? Okay, because
Oh, good.
sometimes they throwing
No,
out
you're right.
acronyms. I just wanted to make sure everyone understood what
That's a good
CTE
idea.
was.
Say it for the audience that we're being taped for, please.
CTE is Career and Technical Education.
Thank you.
As you can see from the photos, this is one of our very exciting programs that we were able to get up and off the ground last summer. We were able to get 108 students employed at Legoland with the help of Legoland, St. Luke's Hospital, and Orange County Community College. Those 108 kids, all but 2 stayed in the job throughout the summer. And as of end of November, 11 kids continued until the end. I'm going to share a story with you guys. I get a lot of exciting things, and this really opened up excitement for me. I had a young lady who came in to me, and she came running to me on the first day of school, like, of course not going to class yet, but she wanted to see me, so. She said to me, Mr. E, I have enough money now to pay for my driver's classes. And she said, do you know no one in my family drives?
Wow.
So it made me happy. And she's just one of many students that came and spoke to me. Those 11 kids that stayed working there are actually looking at careers at Legoland.
That'd be good.
So the one good thing that's going on for them is they are laid off, but they do get paid during that time. Mild, short pay, it's not the same pay. And they do hope to bring them back on at the end of February. We are looking to do this program again this summer, so I am working with the same I'm hoping to get more than 108 kids. I think Legoland, as well as us, couldn't have been more excited that these kids got up every day, walked over to Orange County Community College, got on a bus, went to work, which we all know is not a short drive. Go to work. When their shift is over, there was 5 buses a day. They waited for the bus and come back home, and then had to get from that stop to wherever. Most of the students did walk, and they were in walking distance. This is what led to our work-based learning program, which is so essential for the Career and Technical Education program. Some of the benefits for this program are the students. I mean, as you can see, it's a work experience. We had kids come back and actually sign up for culinary programs, kids that wanted to do auto mechanics, to work on machinery. We had kids that asked to transfer schools to NFA North because now they want to be security guards and go into the nursing program. They did. They saw many, many things there that opened up their eyes to a reason why they want to go to school. Here's a reason to go further in our education. Here's a reason to join the Career and Technical Education programs. The second thing is the employers. There's nothing better for a Career and Technical Education program than bringing employers into our schools and our kids out into the employers. We first find out what is new in technology, what is missing with our students when we place them. Of course, the number one thing to make everybody laugh is, what is the number one problem for even adults in jobs is phones. Again, this makes my programs and education more relevant. Kids saw that they wanted to further their education, which I know you talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. This gives them, wow, there is a world outside Newburgh, New York, or New Windsor, or just this surrounding area. There are ways for me to succeed, and people do care. And I think they saw that, and I know they saw that. And also, it builds our community, which I love, and I want our students to get the best education or trades they can, and live in our community and build it back to where it was.
Can I?
Sure.
This also gives an opportunity for students who don't have college in the mind, because a lot of people always say, you gotta go to college to be successful, which is not always true, because college is not for everybody. As long as you can be a productive citizen, which this shows you, go into a career that can,
Right.
you know, you're interested in, when you don't need college for. This is good. So
Thank you
that's
for
why I've always liked this, always.
Put the next slide, please. Again, I wanted to talk to you guys about work-based learning. A lot of kids think the person that runs our work-based learning, it's only for kids that are in CTE. That is not true. If you are any high school student and you are working a job, we can give you a credit or a half credit based on the number of hours you work within the year. So again, then we have our vocational students, our career and technical education students. This becomes part of their program for them. Our work-based learning coordinator goes out, supervises them, works with them, evaluates them. The employer evaluates them. We're able to work with students and fix the things that need to be fixed, or give the kids more development on the tools and the technology that's needed in those programs. One of the most important parts of work-based learning is it is a mandatory piece of the CDOS enrollment, and CDOS is part of the diploma if the kid chooses to use it as a Regents credit. Next, please. I just wanted to list a couple of the amazing programs. I didn't list all the small businesses, but I looked at some of the regular businesses that are working with our students. Our newest is at the bottom, is Resort World. If we have 18-year-olds that are graduating, they will be here and recruiting. The nice thing about Resort World, they will give them full-time or part-time. They will get health insurance on day one.
Day one?
Day one.
Wow.
Same as Amazon. Day one, both organizations.
That's great.
And they will have some transportation hopefully in the future for them. That is a conversation that these organizations are sitting and talking about, because it is not fair to everyone if there's not a way to travel.
Get there, yeah.
I will use a personal example. My son goes to school in New York. He comes home and he says to me, there ain't nothing going on here. He goes, I can get anywhere in the city that I want to. He can get on a bus, he can get on a subway. We need to bring those to our students and our adults that live in our community. And I'm hoping through these organizations we can find a way to get the politicians involved and get a transportation within this, because that builds careers.
It does, because you have a way to get back and forth, that's true.
And believe it or not, Newburgh area is one of the few areas where that's not available.
Drives me
That's
crazy.
crazy.
Drives me crazy.
It's crazy.
The buses stop running so early, and then buses don't go everywhere. I'm so glad I can drive,
I know.
because I'm serious. Coming from New York City up here, seriously, this was like,
Shock.
Right.
no, really, was like you going to shop. It really
I mean, my
was.
son only went for one semester, and he's like, it's just amazing how much you can get.
Yeah.
And it's just, in such a
Yeah.
short time. And I did visit during the holidays, and he, dragged me all over the place, and I really learned a little bit more about the city myself.
Okay.
So, next, please. I wanted to talk about some of the reporting that goes on for CT to New York State. A lot of people think that the reporting just states, oh, this is a vocational career and this is what goes on. It gets more finite. How many of those kids attended college, entered the military? Also, how are the kids doing in English that are 11th graders? Did they pass their 11th grade exams? Even though it may be an auto class, we need to know,
Right.
do I need to put more writing? Do I need to put more reading into the program? Because this is a good way to build this in to get kids to pass their Regents. So all these different reports break that down. So I want to, as we go to the next slide. As we are looking to the future and we're building our career and technical education program, we hope to reinstate, as Renee was clapping, reinstate the early childhood education program, which again will build teachers in our babies will become teachers. As you all know, all these are supported by the employment enrollment and expectations through 2026. These are jobs that we desperately need in our area, in New York State, but also local counties. I don't know about any of you, but HVAC plumbing, very, very hard to get. We are desperate in all our surrounding areas to get that. And the companies are charging, if not double and triple, because they know
We need it.
they're needed. We hope to build our business and marketing, our computer gaming and cyber security, and some of the new exciting programs is our animal training program, our grooming program, a veterinarian to build kids to head into school to look at our veterinarian program, a veterinary assistant, or a veterinary technician. So we're really looking to build careers that are needed in our area. We were able to look at the veterinary sciences thanks to many of the veterinary businesses in our local area. Next. Another thing that comes up a lot is CTE teachers. Where do we find them? Where do we get them? Teachers that go into career and technical education, and I'm going to use electronics as an example, do not go to school to become an electronics career and technical education teacher. It does not exist. So what we do is we take people that are willing and like and love students and bring them in to teaching. And then we begin the process of doing all the state paperwork. But the things that are missing are these items that we work. We work a lot with the career and tech ed teachers to teach them what planning is. What is a lesson plan? What's differentiated? What's IEP? What's an L student?
They need the education classes.
Right. So we do that within our department to get them. What's in Blaze? How do we put that in for work-based learning? What are portfolios and what does that take for the career and tech ed teacher in the classroom? So I just wanted to give you a little insight that a CTE teacher don't just show up on day one and know everything or have those degrees. We work hard to get them to where they are. Yes,
But
ma'am.
don't some of them get credit for their work experience in the field as well? Once again, I'm going back to, from Yonkers. When we had teachers like that, they did get some credit for their work experience.
Yes.
They were only lacking the education part, so that's why they did that.
Yeah, so when they apply to the state, we show them all those kind of credentials so that they give them
Okay,
those
Okay.
those needed credits. Also, when they come into the district, we're very fortunate here is if they take further classes, like many of the teachers have gotten bachelor's and master's
Mhm.
beyond, they get increases in their salaries
Okay.
over time.
okay.
Next. As we spoke about earlier, and I did put these slides in the wrong order, I talked a little bit about reading and writing and what goes into it. This year, currently, in our Perkins grant, which I do myself, it is done yearly. This year, we are working on technical reading skills. How are we doing this? It was needed between us and our auto, technology, and our electronics program. Well, I can't throw another book in there. That's not going to work. What we did is we threw magazines. Professional magazines. They could bring them home.
Mm-hmm.
They could do a lot of things with them. But I have to tell you, they're reading them.
That's all that we want.
Right. And again, was always a goal of mine, but financial literacy, but taking it to the next step. What is profit? What does that mean? If you're a cosmetologist and you go into business, who's the consumer? How much does this cost you? How much do you increase the cost? How does that pay out? What's health insurance? What's insurance for your business if you open one? So we worked at, of course, our work-based learning, which is so essential. This year, I was able to bring in a bilingual teaching assistant, and they go to different programs based on the number of students. At this time, it's been extremely successful, and I'm hoping that will build in the future. I did get money for transportation, and it is limited to bringing kids to work sites and colleges within the career and technical education program.
It's a start.
And last slide, I want to thank you for listening to me tonight, and that happens to be me at Legoland behind the banana. So, because that's how exciting that was that day, so,
Thank
Nice
you
job.
so much.
thank you,
Nice job, John.
thank you.
John, I got a couple questions. I know we're running late, but, so, for the CTE program, where is that interest going today? Do we wait the kids to come to ninth grade and let them know what CTE opportunities, what career technology education is about, or do we go into the middle school and let them know what's up in the high school so that they can have some interest in saying, wow, I can't wait till I get there because this is what I want to do.
Right.
Because I've run into a lot of kids in the city of Newburgh who don't know that we have barbering. And I said, absolutely we have barbering.
secrets.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm like, and these are kids that have a low interest in school, but when I tell them that, they're like, really? I can be a part of that program? I said, yeah, when you get up to the high school, you can become a part of the CT. But so where do we drill that interest?
Right.
Where is that interest going
So-
and when?
As of this year, we have added exploratory in each of our family consumer sciences and our technology education. So in those courses, we kind of split it down the middle. They went over construction, auto cars, let those kids in technology know about more technical fields, and non-family consumer sciences, we talked about the human side of things, the health sciences, the cosmetologist, the barber, because all the kids are mandated to go in those classes, so we automatically hit them. Now, our babies are leaving 8th grade. Example is next week at the NFA Maine, we have open house. We do have open house, very different. They meet in the auditorium, they go over all the basics with the principal and the staff, but then they enter the boys' gymnasium. Every single CTE course is lined up with tables, kids presenting the information,
Oh,
teachers are there to
wow.
support them, they're demonstrating doing
Awesome.
stuff. It allows parents to say, this is the best kept secret, but now I know this kid can take this course, or if they don't like it, they could try this course. And so we're hoping to bring the excitement forward.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing. Yeah. One other thing that,
No, you go first.
one other thing that we're talking about adding for this summer and for fifth grade is having fifth grade students be able to go on a field trip to be able to see the cars go up and down on the lifts and the auto body or the barbering and the cosmetic, all of the programs.
Awesome.
And we're also discussing opportunities through the summer for our rising fifth graders and our middle school students to be able to have more involvement.
Beautiful, we gotta expose these kids early.
Yeah.
We gotta show them there's a reason to get through school.
There you go.
I have a scheduling question. In the past, there have been difficulties scheduling your introduction courses for some of your CTE. And those are so critical and so important because that builds your base, which needs to be big.
Big.
As kids leave because one thing or another, they're kids, sometimes they do. So that when you get your advanced courses, they're still robust enough to have them. My question is, are you able to schedule well in all the buildings that you work in?
Yes.
What do you need?
Actually, I do not need anything. I happen to feel very fortunate. I have two principals that will do anything to work with me. And they are excited about our programs. I can't say enough about Mr. Dotto and Ms. Valentino. They work with me. Mr. Spellman is the scheduler. He worked all summer with me to make sure that I didn't back up to gym or back up to science lab, that the kids had just equal access to get to it.
That's
So,
wonderful.
Madam Chair,
Thank you.
Yes.
last question.
No, you can ask any question.
Okay,
No,
so I don't know the technical term for this, but I've heard it discussed
Oh, I know.
on television. I know you do. When they're looking at future jobs, future things that are coming that they feel is going to be a field or something popular, like 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the line, with the direction we're going on with CTE and what our vision and what we're looking to put together over there, are we participating in that? And
Yes.
is that-
So I'm glad you brought it up. So when we're looking at electronics and plumbing and all those different fields, in the new building, we are looking at reusable energy. We are trying to bring our kids, what do we do with recyclables in fashion? How do we use them? And I'm not just saying make a coat out of bottles. I'm talking about how does the process work within factories to break down those bottles to give us the fabric in
Right.
order to create something.
Those are future jobs. That's
Okay.
Dr. Campbell, I don't know why I'm calling people.
I'm sorry, John, could you discuss a little bit about your trip to Hudson Valley?
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh.
So I was going to mention that as well as, we also have met with some industry folks here, local businesses to talk about the professions and the careers that we thought for the city that would be, something that we should look into in terms of our programming, but go ahead and speak
Oh,
about
so you got
that.
input from businesses?
Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So John had the opportunity on the 14th of December.
Yeah, I think you have a better memory than me. Yeah. I went with Al, our new math director and science director. We were able to look at a manufacturing program where the kids learn skills within welding and those courses, but then bring it into a manufacturing and using these machines. And you think factory, bottle top, no, it's much more complicated and built on that.
Right.
It's about taking architecture and engineering drawings and creating items that go on cars and taking our kids to, this is like the 5th level, I would say. I like to take them to the 4th level. This is taking them one step above. I would hope to bring maybe Dr. Campbell, I'm not going to look at her, in spaces that we leave at the high school, we could maybe put those in some of those areas and offer it to kids so that the careers are endless.
Yes.
Right.
Endless,
We should
because that's where we're
grant
going.
funding for that too.
Yes.
They just need to know that they can have a good life without always having to go to college.
Absolutely.
100%.
CTE is the future.
Right.
I can tell you, it is.
Yeah, CT is one.
It really is, yes, absolutely.
Thank
So,
you, Carol.
I'm gonna say something real quick. No, real quick.
No,
No,
it's
Carol.
fine, it's fine.
I'm sorry, but it's related to one of our students. And I'm not gonna say any names, but it was a kid that's in our building, one of our buildings. He struggled academically, but I had this kid come to my house and do some work. He's a freaking genius.
Wow.
He is college is not for him.
Right.
But to go and start his own business with his knowledge and what he understands and his ability to do work, he did some stuff that I couldn't even figure out. The kid is incredible with his hands. And CT is his future. CTE is his future. And there's other kids out here like that. That we can provide a future for these kids, giving them opportunities to be able to use their hands, to be able to use their mind without going to school and be very successful at it.
I don't know what he did, I don't know who the student is, but an example is, you could just be a handyman and get a bunch of our skills.
Oh,
little
bingo, that's what it was.
Yes.
I've had
what it was.
more people call my office and say, do you have a handyman? And we do find kids that we know can do little stuff for
That's
them.
what it
Right.
was.
And so, but he could open his own business and hire other people to be a handyman.
Right.
John, we just gotta get you across Academy Field.
Yes, Dr.
You're gonna be very successful.
So I'll unless Carol wants to speak, what I was going to say, I noticed that you talked about financial literacy and things like that. So perhaps another course would be, how do you become an entrepreneur and building your business from ground up?
We should go to that, yeah.
We used to have that course on charting your course.
Long time
Do you remember?
Don't
Yes.
say too long, that makes me old, so.
Very,
Pass.
I can say that, I'm old.
So that's something that we should also.
Absolutely.
Sorry for all the questions.
No, I'm actually,
I
they,
apologize for that.
I like them, that's just
That's
great. And it also teaches me stuff at times, so.
So Madam Chair, are there any questions about any of the things that we talked about?
No, because we talked about a lot of this stuff at the other meeting, and I'm just getting people's input from here, but this was great. This was good. Thank you for your presentation, it was really good and insightful.
Thank you very much.
Yes, very much so.
Thank you, John.
That concludes, yes.
How much she loves this kid.
That was the last thing on your agenda,
Yes,
I'm so
ma'am.
caught up, I didn't even know we was at the. That concludes the agenda, is anybody have any questions or anything before we go?
I have
Okay,
just a
yes,
comment.
yes.
Very, very nice.
I'm going.
I learned.
No,
so
I
much.
enjoyed this, yeah, I
Absolutely.
did.
Thank you.
Stuff like this
Never
is
know
just
who's gonna shame.
mind-boggling.
No, it is, cause I learned some things tonight myself, this was very good.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
very nice.
I do have a question I would like to ask.
Well,
We
let's
were
adjourn,
trying to-
let's adjourn first,
Okay,
yeah, because I don't think that.
okay, all right. If there are any more questions or comments, I would like to adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.